Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's interview episode. We have another special guest. Today, we have Randolph Manlapig, who's here to talk about games and step parenting. So we have a really amazing, unlikely combo in this incredible individual. So I'll let Randolph introduce himself to all of you.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thank you for having me here. Yeah, you said it. You said it right there. It's a very odd combination, right? So, yeah, tabletop gaming, and then we have a step parent right here. Who has that? It's crazy.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about tabletop gaming? I'm sure there's some folks out there who are listening who are curious as to what that is.
Yeah, for sure. So, tabletop gaming. Um, If you guys are familiar with, I think Warhammer is like one of the popular ones. And I've actually looked into this. Wargaming has been around since like ever. I would say like the 1700s. A little bit brief history on that is they do these little miniatures to where they want to, you know, produce some tactics against their foes. So they came out with this strategy, and then all of a sudden it became a miniatures game to where, oh, let's play it like as if it's a game instead of like knocking heads off in real life.
Yeah.
So we got the minis. So Warhammer is one of the first ones, but I didn't get into that because it felt a little overwhelming. So I got into something called War Machine / Hordes. So basically what it is, if you're to look into it, from privateer press, and it's been around since I think 2003. You got these steampunk against these. We're going basically on the table. You're on a 4x4 table, and you're creating strategies. You're creating armies, and you're basically going head to head against your foe, strategizing as if you're going into battle in real life. And yeah, it's very interesting for me because I'm a very, I guess, if I'm not working out my physique, I want to work out this one right here, my brain. So it keeps me going, it just keeps me going.
Can you talk about some of those relationships that you're having? So when you're strategizing against each other, how does
Mhm.
that make you feel? Like, what sense of community are you building as you're doing that?
So that's a good question. So we started off as a group. I got a whole, not a whole bunch, but I have a group of friends that would come in, and we had a big interest in, War Machine. And little side note, I had just came off of an engagement at the time, and I was just looking for something to just take over and just put away my emotions. So tabletop gaming came around for me in War Machine. So it was me and I think 3 or 4 of my buddies. We got into it, and we have right now 8 people. So we would have like little tournaments amongst ourselves. And even though we kind of know how each person plays, it's every single game is different because we're of course we have our own strategies up in our heads, but then when it comes out on the table, it's just something drastically different each time. And it's because of the models that are on the table. And so it's very different. So, and as far as the community part of it, I'm on Facebook. I try to stay active. And right now we have, with the whole Corona, running around, it's going to be a little bit hard and difficult to have people on the table now to play. But luckily, with our handy machines, with the computers now, we're able to play online, and it's a little different. You don't actually get to feel the figures. You're over here clicking away, talking, like, yeah, I'm gonna put this guy right here. Super different.
Yeah, I can only imagine like some of that the social aspect is such a huge part. And yet I imagine even with the online format, the strategizing is still the same. Your brain is still having a fire just as fast
Right,
and
right,
even
right.
quicker because you're not having some of those social interruptions as having a conversation or someone wants to go get a drink out of the fridge or something like that. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's funny you brought that up because for War Machine, if you're not really familiar with it, it can
Mhm.
take up to like 2 to 3 hours long.
Wow.
Little story: when we first got into the game, we went to my buddy's house. His name is Jay, and he's actually the one who introduced it to us. We were at his house at 6 p.m. All right, and there was like again, there's 6 of us,
Yeah.
not 8 because we had 2 more additional later on. 6 of us trying to learn the game, and we just said, why don't we just do like an all-out brawl and see what happens? Kind of like a little battle royale kind of thing. Okay, let's do that. 6 p.m. and we were playing up until 6 a.m. Yeah,
Oh.
I didn't go up until the 6 a.m. mark. I think around like 2 to 3 o'clock, I said I forfeit, I lose. I'm just gonna go ahead and jump in the couch and just go to sleep because I was tired at that time.
Yeah, I imagine that whole strategizing aspect just takes so much out of you. And I'm a little curious as to
Yeah.
whether you found practicing strategizing in that way has helped you in any aspect in your daily life.
Well, so when before you go into combat, or in this case, the game,
Yep.
you want to be able to create a good army. Every army is specific to what you really want out of it. For example, War Machine has something called a warcaster. A warcaster is kind of like the king in chess. You
Okay.
kind of want to build around that warcaster, and depending on what special abilities or kind of powers they have, you kind of want it to make it to where you can apply that onto the army, and then the army gets buffed up all of a sudden and it gets really good, and then you go up against a person, the other person's like, oh my gosh, what the heck did you just do? You just
Yeah.
basically super power beefed them up. So if you applied it to real life, again, I'm a huge planner, so planning the army is one thing with the War Machine on the tabletop gaming world. Planning ahead of time, like how the kids are in school, like how again Rona running around, putting us into social distancing and distance learning, we kind of have to come up with a game plan. All right, what's gonna happen? Literally in March, I had a schedule for them because in March we didn't have no direction. Excuse me, we had
That's
no
okay.
direction. So we were just like, okay, from 8 to like 9, let's have you, okay, well, they have the online learning.
Yeah.
8 to like 10, let's just go ahead and have them online. 10 to like 10:30 break. It was like that. So it's very beneficial for me because again, it gets you a little bit more tactical, not just like in war and battle and anything, but it gets you prepared ahead of time for the kids, and just for your day, as little time as getting ready for the day. And that's what I like about it.
Do you have any tips for parents or step parents who are looking to implement some of those strategies and are feeling lost right now?
Yeah, so a lot of planning. Even before you have kids, a lot of planning. Plan. And if you look at my Google Calendar, and I talked about this in my recent episode on the podcast. If you look at my Google Calendar, I think every day has something on there, because I want to be able to look back and say, what did I do? What did I do like on the 24th of April? Zip,
Yeah.
zip, zip. Technology is awesome. Oh, look what happened. So organization as well. That's a huge part of planning. So um, and being creative. I think all of those 3 aspects, you can implement them into tabletop gaming and being a parent or a step parent, whichever you want to be.
Yeah, as you're talking, I'm seeing so many implications and applications of using both. Are you ever able to transfer some of your tabletop gaming skills into other activities for your kids? So is there anything that has gotten you to think creatively or to create something of the same format for them?
That's a good question. So I'm pretty sure you're thinking metaphorically, like kind of
Yeah.
similar to tabletop gaming. So I went ahead and I jumped. Let's think about literally. we we actually I actually got them into board games. So we're playing games like King of Tokyo. We're playing games like Cockroach Poker, those kind of things. And again, I try to tell them, like how I told you, like it keeps my mind going and whatnot. Kids are smart. They know exactly what I'm thinking during the time I play a certain card or play a certain model. And I'm like, it's hard, you know? So at one point I'm trying to get them engaged in the games, but at the same time, you're trying to strategize against them. And it's like, oh man, I need to master that somehow.
Yeah. What do you think of parents who always let their children win every game? What's your opinion on that?
Not every game, because I could tell right now I grew up a sore loser. I'm not even joking. Yeah, I was a super sore loser. So there has to be a time where you excuse me, there has to be a time where you have to let them know, let them feel it, let them know what it feels like to not win all the time. Let them know how it feels to know that if you win a game, don't go around boasting yourself, you know? And then if you lose, people say better luck next time, but I always tell them, you did the best you can, right? They say
Yep.
yes, perfect. If not, then try harder next time. It's and I tell them, you don't really fail unless you don't do anything. There's a certain quote that I tell them all the time where um, it just lost my it just went away from my head actually.
That's
But
okay.
I think it's called you lose 100% of shots, or something like that.
Yeah, you
I gotta
lose
look it up again.
100% of the shots you don't take. Yeah.
Exactly. There you
Yeah.
go. I knew you get it. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. And
But
I think over
yeah,
COVID-19, parents have been feeling like they need to have like experiences where their child can shine and be perfect, especially
hmm,
considering a lot of kids have been, not in their sports teams or in their dance
yeah,
classes or music classes where they really excel. So parents are trying to find some of those activities that get them away from screen time. And I always suggest board games because I think it's such a family building activity too. And the biggest thing I hear is we can't agree on a game. We can't agree on a game. We
yeah.
can't agree on what to play. And when we do play, we struggle to stay engaged. And I'm wondering, how do you decide what game you're going to play for the day? And when you get to that game, how do you keep everyone engaged with it?
That's a good question. So the way I do it, I kind of shy away from the decision making of that, and I give the floor to the kids. I just wait and see. I'm like, okay, we're gonna play board games tonight, 10 o'clock p.m. Let's go play something. One of them will come out. Oh, let's play King of Tokyo. I'm like, okay, we got one vote for King of Tokyo in my head. Let's see what the other one is. King of Tokyo or 5 Minute Dungeon. That's like one of our recent additions.
Nice.
And then so well, it's 2-1. All right, King of Tokyo it is. If we can't come into the conclusion, we're just doing a vote.
Yep.
Like how we just did, or just put write the names on a piece of paper, fold it, put it in the jar. Fiance picks it because she's very neutral. She doesn't really care what games we play.
uh, there you
So
go.
that's how we do it right there. Yeah.
And when you've chosen the game and you're sitting there, and how are you keeping them engaged and focused on the game and not on devices or not thinking about something else or not running off to go to their rooms or to do another activity?
Luckily, I never had any kind of issues where they're constantly on their phone.
Yep.
They know that once we're on the table, it's a different person. I'm a different person. because I'm very competitive, you know. So when that time comes, literally their phone is like to the side and they're concentrating on defeating me.
Ah, there
If
you
not
go.
me, it's probably their siblings and stuff like that, or their mom, for the most part.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not on their phones. That's a good thing. And sometimes, again, they sore losers. Sometimes, where I try to teach them, they would lose. They run out. They go straight into their bedroom. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll talk to them later.
Yeah.
After they kind of simmer down.
I think that,
But they don't have.
oh, nope,
I'm
go
sorry. Go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just going to say, I
Sorry.
think the boundaries are really healthy that you're setting in place.
Yeah, and I think once on the table and you tell them that this is what's going to happen. If you need to shuffle cards, have them do it, and then the more they are involved, I think the more they'll be more involved with the game, more attentive to it, and not be distracted by their phones. There hasn't been a time where we had to say, okay, all phones on, like, right here or whatnot. We didn't come to that point, which is really good.
Yeah.
And trust me, I've kind of planned on that part too, where if they got to that point, I'm like, okay, we are spending a lot of time either on the computer or on the phone. Board games time right now, phones in that bucket right there.
Yeah.
Trust me, I planned that already too. So
I think parents watching this can learn a lot from you in terms of having a plan in place, being organized, and even figuring out how to implement games in their life, because some of the things you're talking about, the strategic development, the brain development, even the connection to the present moment, I see it as almost, even though it's a game, it's definitely a mindfulness exercise in terms of participating and fully
right,
immersing
right, right.
yourself in the moment. And I'm wondering, for families who are looking to connect with you or learn more or see some of your gaming experiences, where can they find you, and what do you have coming up to share with us?
So that's a good question also. So I have a blog. It's called the Wolf Shield Chronicles. So breaking it down, it'll make sense if I break down the name. So Wolf Shield, my name Randolph, translates into Wolf Shield, if you Google it. And then Chronicles, I like to keep track of time. And so Chronicles, chronological order, like a storybook. If you read some of the blog posts there, you'll be led to, like, what happened this month. And, as a parent, we look into frugal ways to save money, especially around these times. So I talk about different apps we use, what did I did to get more extra income. So that is on there. I talk about, my weight loss journey or fitness journey, which I haven't been doing so good on. Um, the other one is tabletop. So that one, there's another game called Judgment that I'm getting into recently, and Kickstarter, which is a web page where you go in and you can see either, like, video games, tabletop games, any kind of games, etc., or
Yeah.
accessories that are going to be coming out. I'm not sure if you heard about that yet, um, but it's basically for something, for those who have a game coming out and
Okay.
they want people to help them fund
Yeah.
it or help people back it. And so when it's funded, it'll come out like sometime in the near future after they get all the material to put together. So I want to say I'm active in there. Active meaning, for me, looking through it, because
Yep.
Kickstarter is a dangerous place to be in as a tabletop gamer. Yeah.
I've seen
So
Kickstarter being used for books and movies. I didn't realize people had done
yeah.
that trajectory into doing tabletop games and utilizing that with accessories. So I think that's really cool to know for folks who are looking for new and unique things, especially during this time too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, books, even bags. A lot of accessories are in there too. So it's pretty
Yeah.
a neat place to just look ahead, what's coming out, what you think is a good idea that needs to be funded. I'm also on, Instagram. Pinterest is a good friend of mine because a lot of good ideas in there.
Definitely.
I have yeah, a Facebook group. My podcast is in the Facebook group, R&I podcast, as well as the Whip Show Chronicles group is in the Facebook, and Twitter. But you can, anywhere that I just mentioned, feel free to just, hit me up. I'm really receptive, and I try to comment or reply as soon as I can. So try to be as, helpful as I can. So yeah.
Amazing. We're going to put all of those links into the comments. And we'll also pin it to the About section as well. That way everyone knows where to find you and is able to learn more and follow your journey, especially as you're learning a new game and all those other helpful tips that I think folks in this audience particularly can benefit from, myself included in that. Awesome. So we really appreciate you for coming on. I know
Thank you.
you're just moving into your new home right now, so appreciate you coming in at this point. And yeah, that's all for now, folks. We will always see you again every Saturday and Tuesday. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. We're trying to provide as many resources as possible for families all over the world. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, guys.